Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as she travels the Vortex and wake up from one of your heroic naps. It's episode 402. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Was your nap restful?
I'm ready for another heroic nap.
I didn't get a nap
Me too.
today. I needed one.
I
had a
need
day
nap.
off too, and I didn't get a nap today.
Oh, that's just fail on your part.
Although I did get to sleep in a little bit because the kids were off and I was off. So
Did you do anything fun on your day off?
no, took kids to the doctor. Not particularly fun.
Oh boy.
Went out to dinner tonight and we're looking for Mason's Halloween costume, so we went several places and still struck out. But Caitlin found hers.
What's he gonna be?
He wants to be, and I can't remember the kid's name, but the lead character in My Hero Academia. So,
Ooh, that could be kind of a tough find in this area.
well, we just need a green wig that's suitable, and we need a yellow backpack. That's all we have left. So the rest of it we have. We found a green wig, but he doesn't think it'll work for the look that he's going for. So we put that one on the back burner because Caitlin thinks she can make it look that way. So we'll see.
Can of green paint.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys do anything fun this week? Besides running around the Halloween shops? What'd you do?
I got a bunch of movies knocked out. So many, I made a list.
Oh, wow.
So we got to go out and see The House with the Clock in Its Walls, which is really cute. It has that, tonally it feels like, not necessarily, it's easy to say Goosebumps because it's got Jack Black in it, but I think it's any of those not quite child appropriate scary films like Lemony Snicket. Or, those just slightly scarier than they probably ought to be for the kids to be watching it, and yet still very kid-friendly. It has that kind of feel to it. I did not know it was directed by Eli Roth.
Yeah.
Which is a weird fit, but it was entertaining. It was really good. And then we went and saw Bad Times at the El Royale, which is amazing. It's one of the best films of the year.
I want to see it. It's got a terrific cast.
Fantastic cast. It's very easily, I think a lot of people are comparing it to Pulp Fiction structurally. There's a lot of great monologues and character introductions and that kind of stuff. If anything, it's probably more in common with Hateful Eight, in the remote location, a bunch of people, and
Is this a Tarantino film?
It's not a Tarantino film.
Okay.
It's, who's the guy that did Cabin in the Woods? Not Joss Whedon.
Oh, it's Drew Goddard.
Yeah. It's his, and it's amazing. It's really good. And then as part of my countdown to Halloween, I watched They Live, which is not a Halloween movie, nor is it a horror movie.
It's got creatures in it, though, doesn't it?
That's kind of all I knew about
monsters
it.
in it.
It was described to me as,
I don't know
it's
if
scary,
I've ever
and it's
seen
got
that
this.
one.
And I went, oh, okay. It's a comedy. It's not even a particularly good one.
Yeah. I imagine it didn't. It's not. It's probably pretty
it's
dated.
not aged
too.
well.
Yeah.
Roddy Piper. I mean, it's fun, but I'll also be the first person to admit I kind of come down probably a little further afield than most people when it comes to John Carpenter films anyway. They're just not my cup of tea, other than Big Trouble in Little China.
I haven't seen it since I was in. Well, I've seen Big Trouble recently, but I haven't seen They Live since I was in high school.
Yeah, missed it. Just didn't know anything about it other than scary. It's not. And then I finally watched Poltergeist, the original.
You've never
seen Poltergeist?
I have seen all of the important pieces of Poltergeist. I've never actually sat down and watched Poltergeist.
I'll be darned.
And so it's just kind of been one of those that's been on the list for a really long time. And James Medina was like, dude, what do you mean you've never watched it? So he came over and forced me, in quotes, to watch Poltergeist. Wow, that is fantastic. That is an amazing movie. How have I missed out on that all these years?
Yeah, it is.
And I don't care what anybody
Not as scary
says.
as you thought?
Oh, well, there's only two parts that the big giant head coming through the doorway. That's terrifying. And the clown, which I'd seen that before. And I kept waiting for the clown. And there's no clown. There's no clown. There's no clown. And then it ends. And it's like, oh, okay. They're wrapping up. They're moving out. They're doing that. I'm like, where's the damn clown? Maybe it was a director's cut. Maybe it's in the second one. And then they went back into the bedroom and the clown was there. I was like, okay, here it comes. And it still scared me. So, which I'm sorry, no way would I be staying in that house, let alone in that bedroom after those events. I don't care what the short lady says. The house is not clean. We're not staying here. But I don't care what it says in the credits. That's a Spielberg movie. They can claim Tobe Hooper directed that all they want. It's a Spielberg movie. I mean, shot for shot in some cases. There's Raiders, there's E.T., it's a Spielberg movie. So, but man, it's good. So,
you did watch a lot.
I did watch a lot. And that's not even counting all the other stuff that I'd already seen. So.
Right.
What'd you do?
Not a whole lot. I did read a graphic novel, Planet of the Apes Visionaries.
You're on an apes kick this
a little bit.
recently.
I just recently discovered that they were available digitally from the library. So, look, I can knock a whole bunch out in between, podcast reading too. It's based off of Rod Serling's original screenplay, and it's not that different. The big beats are still there. The trappings are a little bit different. Some of the circumstances are a little bit different, but it's still far closer to the actual final product than the novel. So I'd be almost more interested to see a graphic novel version of the novel than this one. It was good. It was interesting, but it was the character of, it's not Taylor in this, it's something else. He's a very different character, partially because the ape society is modern in this graphic novel. So he's almost more Paul Newman character than a Charlton Heston character. But
Gotcha.
If you're intrigued, it's worth a read. It's pretty quick. That's about it.
I read a graphic novel too. I read The Haunted Mansion, which was the first in the series of Disney Kingdom comics that Marvel put out. It's 5 issues, but I read the collected graphic novel. It's interesting. It's a kid who grandfather dies. He's an adventurer. They talk about going into the mansion one day and exploring it on their own. And he's always been real scared. And Madame Leota comes to his house, calling out to him, saying that his grandfather's ghost is trapped in the house and he has to come help him. And so he ends up going to the house to help his grandpa escape. And there's this evil captain who, a pirate, who's trapped all the ghosts in the house. And he's chasing down our hero. And
Is it Blackbeard?
no.
Oh, what a missed crossover opportunity.
And it's got the bride obviously in the attic, and everybody's scared of the bride, even the captain. And the cool thing about it is it hits a lot of the beats of the house. There's even some lines that are said in the book that are very much from the Haunted Mansion. So
Nice.
that's good. Then I watched a documentary called Halloween, something of the Dying Sun. It's a documentary on Amazon. It was okay. It was a lot of stuff I already knew, but it talks about the Celtic roots of Halloween. Was it?
I watched Elmo Says Boo.
That was your Halloween.
That was my
fair.
Halloween. There was another Sesame Street one we watched too, but I can't remember what it was called.
Shy was riveted to
Feast of the Dying Sun. Sorry,
Toy Story of Terror.
that's a good one. I like it.
I really like that one.
It's fun.
But she was through the whole thing. big saucer eyes.
Nice.
All right. Well, should we move on to some news?
Let's. So there's been quite a bit of Big Finish news lately. First up, there's going to be a new...
What else is coming out that I can't afford?
10th Doctor and Donna are back together for more audio adventures. This time, Jacqueline King and Bernard Cribbins will be reprising their roles as both Sylvia Noble and Wilfred Mott. So that's another volume to add to your wish list.
Wilf.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. They've also announced River Song Series 6 and 7. And we are going to get a prequel to Talons of Wen Chiang in it.
Ooh.
So she is meeting... Who is this? I lost the name in the article.
Well, it's either... who are the guys?
Jago.
Jago and Lightfoot.
I believe it's Lightfoot.
Because one of them's passed.
Which one? Yeah.
Yeah, one of them died recently.
So that's pretty exciting.
Cool.
Pretty much a Django Lightfoot prequel.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've also announced the Short Trips line will continue till 2020, including two major notes. One is a story written by Andy Frankham-Allen,
Woohoo!
called The Revisionists, which will include the Brigadier and Leela meeting the Brigadier.
That I'm very excited about.
And it's read by Louise Jameson, right?
Yes, yeah. And then there's also going to be the very first 12th Doctor story in this box set. But I could not find who is going to be reading this story. They have not officially announced that it's Peter Capaldi, but they haven't said it's not. So,
cool.
Usually the Short Trips are those. I haven't listened to many of
they're
those.
They're like companion chronicles.
That's what I figured. It wasn't not the Doctor themselves normally.
They're relayed by another person.
So maybe they got Nardole. Or Missy, since,
Yeah, she's doing some Big Finish now. So.
They have not announced who is reading it, so I will be looking forward to seeing.
We'll let you know, dear listeners.
She has a new show, though, doesn't she?
It's like dropped.
Oh, is it done with?
It's like out now.
Oh, okay.
I think it was the whole season at once because it's a Netflix show.
Ah, okay.
Sabrina.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's all the Big Finish news. There is also a bit of news coming from Candy Jar Books that the next Lucy Wilson mystery is called The Midnight People, written by John Peel.
Yay!
So you can pre-order that now.
All right.
On November 29th, the next book will come out, so it's a bit further out than that.
Okay. All right, shall we move on to feedback?
Let's. First up in feedback is Holly.
I had a feedback saying prepared, but I didn't get it written or sung in time. So just imagine in your heads the Ghostbusters theme. And then instead of Ghostbusters, it's Ghost Monument. And then insert feedback somewhere into that. And you kind of got an idea of what I was going for.
Now he's making the listeners work.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do
Imagine
it. Hey, Billy Joel doesn't sing Piano Man in concert anymore. It's pretty much all audience. And he goes la-da-la-da-dee-da. And then everybody else sings. Hey, guys. Finally get our opening credit sequence. And I loved it. We get mentions of Venusian Aikido, and I was kind of hoping that the sunglasses the Doctor had lent Graham would have been the sonic sunglasses. For a minute, I thought that all the players in this race had landed on an alternate Mars planet with the warning of don't drink the water, etc. The TARDIS being the Ghost Monument, I didn't see coming at all, but it does make sense with how it materializes and dematerializes. Glad that Graham and Ryan are talking about how they're dealing with Grace's loss and what she would want them to do. The ending with the return of the TARDIS, I loved how the TARDIS opened her doors after the Doctor apologized for losing the key. I love the inside, and the reactions of Yaz, Graham, and Ryan say it all. They're ready for more adventures, and they trust that the Doctor will do what she says and make sure they get home. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you,
Thank you, Holly. That's it for feedback this week.
All right, well, let's move on to our review.
The Ghost Monument. Still reeling from their first encounter, can the Doctor and her new friends stay alive long enough in a hostile alien environment to solve the mystery of desolation? And just who are Engstrom and Epso?
Dun, dun, dun.
I enjoyed this one.
I liked it. There are some issues with it, but I liked it overall.
I like the people. I like the characters. I like the continued character study that is her new best friends. I love Graham.
That was one thing after we finished recording, as I didn't touch on enough, was how much I enjoyed Graham throughout the entire story last week.
I think maybe part of that is just because I've been clamoring for an older companion since Evelyn. It's like, yeah, let's go older. And so there's Graham. And every time they ran down a hallway, he would have to stop and catch his breath. And I just smiled because it's like, yeah, this is what I want. I want somebody I can relate to and go, yep, there I am.
Well, I also kind of like his reluctance to be part of this journey. While he's there, he's dealing with it, but he's also not going to be above complaining about any issues or questioning why are we doing this.
But he's not over complaining, which I think is key, because I think if he was
constantly
complaining, which they could easily fall into that trope if and they haven't, then I would have problems with it. But I agree. And
like last week, he just was trying to, okay, I'm done, see you guys, I'm out, and kept getting pulled back in. I really appreciated that last week.
Well, and he's not Tegan with
right.
We're gonna go and do this. He's just enough of the questioning that as the audience we're going, yeah, is that really such a good idea? Oh, well, okay. And then he's just along with it. You
right.
know, that is either striking such the right balance with him. But all of them have been very good. Jodie Whittaker continues to impress. I like the two newcomers for this week. I thought they were fun and interesting. The episode just kind of was there. Nothing really happened. And I mean, yes, it was high adventure and exploring a planet and killer robots and
killer rags.
So it was Doctor Who.
Yeah,
so it was Doctor Who. But it
really was. It felt very much like Doctor Who while having a much more aesthetic and pleasing look. I thought it shot beautifully.
It was shot beautifully.
The use of the location shooting was terrific.
Yeah.
I thought the story was interesting. I think my problem with the story is there was a lot of things that they was kind of thrown at us that they didn't really feel like they explored enough. But other than that, I mean, perhaps I'm saying it wrong. Across the board, it was very solid. It was well made. It was well acted. It was well shot. Everything was above board with it. I just didn't care for the story. I thought the story was suffering a lot of it on the writing end. It just didn't do it for me.
I think he focused a little bit more on the characters than he did the MacGuffin of what they were doing on this planet.
Which is fine. As long as the characters are interesting, I'll go along for the ride, even if the ride isn't all that exciting, because I'm enjoying the character study. But I feel like, well, it's Doctor Who. We probably should have a little bit better of an adventure than what we've had the last couple of
and
weeks.
And we have seen this type of story already in the past.
Yeah.
With Enlightenment. It's kind of that same concept, just on a different scale.
Do you think so?
It's a race to a destination.
Well,
and
but
we're joining in at the latter half of this race.
Yeah, I mean...
That's the real main parallel.
I can see that as a parallel. I think that
the planet obviously is completely different.
That's just it, though. I think there was here was the problem I had with it is the Doctor wants to know what happened to these people. Why aren't they here? I don't think that was satisfactorily answered. Even though you can assume the cloth people are the ones that basically wiped them out.
Yeah, we don't ever really get an answer.
They didn't really delve into a satisfactory answer of what happened to these people, especially since the Doctor keeps continually asking, aren't you curious what happened here? Why is it? And she keeps looking at that, which I liked. I appreciated. That was very Doctor-like. But then to not give us the answer a little more obviously, I thought was maybe a missed opportunity.
While, it should have been addressed in the episode, I have a feeling we're going to come back to it, at least in a drop line later down the road, especially since the Stinza were the ones behind everything, and last week, and so there is obviously going to be some sort of through thread.
There is a through arc. I'm eating my words from last week because it's definitely there, and
it's subtle,
which is a bit annoying because of the fact that Chibnall or somebody said. That's another thing, is I always hear these things and then I don't know what the source is. So maybe Chibnall never said that. Somebody else just
and it still was a standalone adventure.
Well, it is, and I think
that's what his qualifier was.
Maybe you can take from that too that he's not doing any two-parters like they've done, which is the case as well.
And I think that's what he was talking about was two-parters. And I think everyone extrapolated.
That's just it. I think I have listened to fandom extrapolate a hypothesis or a theory through that. And then I jump on board with that, and I need to quit doing that.
I'm pretty sure that I had heard both, though, that there was not going to be any two-parters and that there was no arc. It was just standalone episodes.
Yeah, but who said it?
That's just it. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I think fandom extrapolates a lot of things that are passed on, and nobody on the production staff probably even said that distinct line. They probably said something like, no two-parters, and everybody said, "Oh, there won't be a through line." I mean, I don't know how you get
exactly.
from A to B, but
So the exact quote from San Diego Comic-Con was, "It's 10 standalone episodes. There's no two-parters or anything like that."
And who is that from?
That's from Chris Chibnall.
and that tells me there are
No two-parters.
no two-parters, and they're all
Or
standalone.
three-parters, or four-parters.
Exactly.
Although this was a two-parter.
No,
we had a cliffhanger.
there was a connecting
No.
thread.
We had a cliffhanger from last week that was resolved this week.
No, that's
That's not a
a two-parter.
We had the same villain.
No, we had a different villain. We had a name drop.
We had the
a
same
name
villain
drop.
because they are the ones that were responsible. I'll even go one
Well,
step
they're responsible,
further.
but it's not.
If you want a potential spoiler, this is pure speculation on my end. I'm going to say that these guys are the through line for the whole season.
I would agree.
I completely agree with that.
Not only did the Doctor jump from Earth to space in an attempt to find the TARDIS, I think the Doctor jumped 1,000 years into the future trying to find the TARDIS with that transmat.
Well,
And
that was obvious from the fact that the monument's been there for thousands of
That's
years.
Right.
just it.
Yeah.
I think the defeat of Tim on Earth inspired this race to go be more warlike, and they started kidnapping scientists and dragging them to the planet and forcing them to create all these horrible weapons.
Sure.
And so that all of this, that they're going to become this big, massive, invading army, and it's all going to backtrack to the fact that, it's because you embarrassed him and then threw him off a crane.
Yeah.
That's my prediction.
That's
I could see that.
completely agree with that postulation. I think that that's probably straight on. That still does not make this a two-parter.
It does from the standpoint that we didn't get a cliffhanger for this episode.
Well,
it wrapped up.
A cliffhanger has nothing to do with a two-parter, because if that's the case, then the whole first season of Doctor Who was
More
a
than
series
that.
of
The first 10 seasons, almost.
well, they didn't all run into each other, but
They didn't all have the
that's
same
why I
bad
say
guy
almost.
either.
that's why I go back to Hartnell, because most of those landed and picked right up.
Right.
So you're
But they
saying
didn't have the same bad guy. They had standalone stories that didn't have anything to do with each other.
just because
Cavemen,
it's the same bad guy
cliffhanger,
doesn't mean
Daleks
that.
versus Tim, cliffhanger, Tim. Yeah,
But it's not done directly.
Definitely not.
It's
Definitely not a two-parter.
it's more the environment of the planet that was caused by Tim, but that's a byproduct of the villain.
I'll agree.
Not
I'm-
necessarily the
byproduct,
same
yes.
villain.
I'm just saying, I personally, I feel like if you're going to make that statement, we don't have any two-parters, then why did we need the cliffhanger? Is it because you felt like you had to have a cliffhanger? Is it because the episode wasn't exciting and you thought, well, we're going to give you a little tease of next week? There's something that doesn't jive with me about why that was established that way. If you're going to put it forward and go, okay, we're not going to do these parts, okay, just give me the end credits then. And why didn't we get the open? We'll get to the actual open in a moment, but
Well, we got the end credits. We didn't get the open.
but we didn't get the open last week. Why?
so you're saying
There wasn't any reason to withhold the open from last week. It didn't play into the story, which I was thinking maybe it would.
I think it was a let's get this off the ground and get running, and I think
I thought it was so we could focus on Jodie and the story
I think
instead of
that was a
the
mechanical
open dominating.
effort to not dominate it with the opening credits, to give this is something new, and we're going to develop to the character without distracting you with the open. I think that's exactly what that was.
I don't think it was successful then.
So you think they should
Well,
have
maybe
just
not.
moved the end
Maybe
up?
not for you, but
Yeah.
that does not make it. That does not lend to your theory of a two-parter because the first one didn't open. I mean, if you're going to argue that because the first one didn't open, the first one was just a prologue to this story.
It's true.
Okay,
a pre-credit sequence.
there you go. It was a pre-credit sequence.
Because there wasn't one this week.
No.
Started just with the open.
But just that was one of the things that we all liked, was the idea of, we're going back to the Hartnell era. And no, we're not. It's just
Well,
here's the
Hartnell
next time
didn't
trailer.
always end on a cliffhanger.
Well, but
Or
not
into
just-
the next one.
yes,
There were
they
not always. Later in the run. Wasn't there times where they didn't
Almost.
bleed over?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was time.
Obviously.
Really?
Otherwise,
Almost
just
all of them.
otherwise, Big Finish wouldn't have been able to shoehorn stories in the way
Yeah.
they
In
did.
fact, once they got to the point where they quit showing the title sequence for the next story, they kind of quit doing the cliffhanger too. Or it's not even a cliffhanger, it was almost a precede to the next episode.
Because
Right.
it came back with Troughton then.
Well,
Because they did a lot of it in
It was
Troughton's era,
intermittent
too.
after that first season.
Right. It was
sometimes they would do it, sometimes they
Yeah,
wouldn't.
yeah, all right.
Right.
So I think it's hard telling.
I'll retract my criticism. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to so if they had moved the credits to after the funeral and they were about to say goodbye, and then they said, "Okay, well, you want to help me come find my TARDIS?" and we put the actual science stuff at the beginning of the next episode, it wouldn't have felt like a two-parter to you?
No, it still would have felt like a two-parter because these two episodes are the through line, the thread, the narrative is linked.
I think we're going to have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's 1 2-hour episode that they broke into 2 parts.
No, because they're completely different locales. They're different. The tone's different. No, I disagree.
I disagree.
Keys and Marinus.
100%.
It's one story, bunch of different locales, bunch of different quests. It's the same story.
Well, then I think what you're saying is this is a 12-part season.
10-part.
10-part.
Possibly, I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't seen part 3 yet.
I think once we get there. I think also this one ended in the TARDIS of them leaving, and the next one will pick up, and that's why we didn't get the cliffhanger type thing, because that was the end, and it'll pick right back up in the next story of them being in the TARDIS and ending up somewhere. The thing that I really did enjoy was the fact that our heroes get picked up, and we don't see that part. It's explained to us on camera, and I liked that. I liked the fact that we didn't see the resolution. We understood the resolution from the narrative, and that throws you into the story a lot better. It gets it going, making you wondering what's going on, especially when we only see Grant and Brian. Ryan first, and they're on this ship, and he's waking him up, and you're trying to figure out what's going on here. I like that. I like kind of being thrown into the action, not knowing what's going on, and having to try to puzzle it together, and then presuming what happened to the other two, and then getting that satisfaction of discovering, I was right. They ended up on another ship somewhere, and I thought that was neat. I thought I liked again that you talked about liking the characterization, and I did too. I think the two main characters, the two people in the race, I thought for having to develop 2 people in 40 minutes, they did a really good job with the characterization of the two. They made you understand each of them and their motives, and they start off, you almost feel more, at least I felt more, I was kind of rooting for the guy more early on because he was
more likable.
That's it. He was more likable, and she was more standoffish. And then as the story goes, and you learn their stories and their backstories, it reverses. And when a show can do that and change my mind about a character, I like that as well. So I thought that was done really well. I thought while it was kind of goofy, and people have complained about this, I liked Ryan going out with the gun, thinking, I've done this in Call of Duty, and, taking them all out, and then them all popping back up, and him realizing, that was a mistake. And him getting the doctor of, this was a very pacifist episode. This was, the doctor still does not like guns. This doctor definitely doesn't, would rather fix things with her mind, and illustrates to a best friend or companion or friend. She calls them best friends, my new best friends. Illustrates to them with an example, and I think it worked really well, especially for new viewers to go, that don't necessarily, because we're in this society of video games and solving things with a gun. We've been that for years. I mean, we've been fans of the Wild West as a society for many a decade as well. But for a new fan that's used to their shows where a gun solves everything, this one shows you that, hey, there are consequences, and a gun doesn't always solve everything, and you can think your way through a problem. So I like that.
And I really like the fact how they handle that with Ryan wanting to go do that, because as a modern 19-year-old or however old he's supposed to be, it would make sense that he would think he could do this and fix this issue no problem for everybody.
Surely he's older than that, isn't he?
No, they made a reference to him being only 19 or
because
something like that.
Didn't he and Yaz go to school together? And she's already a police officer at 19? I mean, I guess that's possible, but...
Well, she was very low ranking.
Oh, yeah, because she was doing traffic duty. But
They definitely dropped that age in the first episode. I can't remember what. But it's just the fact of, in today's society, in today's video game, that he would want to go do that would make sense, and them not having him do that would not be true to the character.
Yes, agreed.
Does anybody think he was wrong, necessarily? I mean, obviously, Leroy Jenkins your way out of a building on an alien planet and shooting a bunch of robots is probably not the best idea ever. But if I were dropped into that situation, didn't know what was going on, only had the doctor's word that this is what was happening, I'd probably have picked the gun up too.
No, actually,
but I would have looked at it more from the standpoint of I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
I mean, he got a little John Wayne there for a while, but I think that it... no, I don't fault him at all for doing it. But I guess what I'm saying is I like the fact that they showed the consequence.
Yeah.
And,
no, it's a really, really good...
And showed you that there are other ways to do this.
We get so... Especially with the Capaldi era, we got so many of the grumpy monologues about why violence and guns are never the answer, but not really... It was a lot of tell, don't show.
Right.
And this was a really nice, aha, see? This is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Let's go outthink them now. And it worked. It illustrated that point beautifully.
Yeah, I agree.
And while we're on Ryan, I agree with Holly. I like the fact that they took the time to have him and Graham talk about Grace's death. That was a nice, important through line for the characters and growth for them, I think.
At least Graham talked about it. Ryan's still kind of...
Yeah. And I think it's obviously something we're going to revisit, too. And something we should.
I like, too, that they're doing a really good job of exploring their relationship. You know, Ryan's still a little, I'm not going to call you Graham, or call you Granddad, but I do like that when they get in there and he rolls up his sleeves and Graham goes, well, let's look at this engine and see what, and he gets in there and do it. And then Ryan's the one that realizes, wait a minute, it's not an engine, it's a battery.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool that they were both kind of working towards the same goal, and they come up with a solution as well.
Although there is a little bit of almost the crowded TARDIS aspect of Yaz didn't get a whole lot to do this episode.
That's going to happen, though, I think, throughout this season.
I think so, too. That's just what happens when you have four main characters
I think they're going to shuffle the characters back and forth.
I have a feeling she'll have a bigger role next week.
Yeah, so... and I'm okay with that because I think that gives you a lot of options. I don't feel like in an ensemble cast everybody every week has to.
No, they don't. Yeah.
But you're right. It does illustrate that there are a lot of people together.
I'll add the caveat that as long as I don't mind if somebody doesn't have as much to do one week versus another, as long as it doesn't continually come at the expense of the characters in favor of the guest star of the week, which is what happened a lot with Peter Davidson's era. Oh, we're bringing in the highwayman. Oh, we're bringing in the bandit. Oh, we're bringing in this person. Oh, well, I guess we don't have anything for Turlo this week.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess Nis has been knocked unconscious. Oh, Tegan is locked in a cupboard.
As long as they don't go to those extremes to get them out of the story, I agree.
Well, I think as long as they continue to give them something to do,
it just may not be as much. Yeah, exactly. It just would be something.
No, I don't see that happen. I don't see that kind of thing happening, especially as much as they pay actors now.
Yeah, that's true. I really like the opening credit sequence.
Yeah, it's neat.
The new open, I really like it, and I like the theme a lot too.
I like the theme as well.
I like the music. I'm not sold on the open yet.
It's a little dark. I could be a little brighter, but I'm okay with the darkness of it too. So
I miss the TARDIS. I've said from
maybe it'll show up next week because we were waiting for it.
That's true.
I've said from day one that's how I know it's my show. Still is when the TARDIS shows up in the credits, and then this was kind of a weird organic bubbling thing versus a space vortex thing. It was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. It's different.
More like a modern version of the original.
I usually know it's my show because it's in the TV guide listed for that way.
Well, if you check out DirecTV, it's showing Death to the Daleks next week.
Is it?
Not Rosa.
Not Rosa.
It reminded me a little bit of the very, very flashy Matt Smith one that there was almost too much going on, but it had a different feel to it. You remember?
I don't remember that one.
It was very colorful and it had the crackles.
The first one with his face.
Yes.
In the cloud.
Yes.
Okay.
And I missed the face.
That started with the ones that they kind of did up in the more cinematic.
I think that started with Clara,
feature,
didn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Where they had the special movie posters for each one.
Right. I think it was.
They had splashy names for each title. Asylum of the Daleks.
I think
was
it was.
one.
I think it was after that. I think it was Bells of St. John's when they started.
Yeah. Anyway,
they changed the font.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Paint over the first 5, and then with
You're
Bells
right.
they did the whole new sequence. Yeah.
It reminded me of that, but less space and more organic.
See, I thought it felt very Nebula.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what
Space
I liked
Nebula.
About it. Yes.
That's what it is.
Well, because we've had vortexes and we've had starfields and we've had
Clocks.
lightning and we've had clocks, and
so
so
I
I
never
think
liked that aspect of
taking
Capaldi's.
another change with the Nebula effect, I think was.
I like it.
It felt more inner space almost to me, but
Maybe they're going to go really small. At some
into
point.
the Dalek. I don't know. It'll grow on me. I like them. I like the music. I like the arrangement of the theme. I agree. It sounds very reminiscent of Hartnell, or even kind of Eighth Doctor Big Finish, with the kind of darker overtones to the theme to it. But
Maybe.
yeah, I mean the music's cool. The theme's just kind of. I miss the TARDIS. I miss the face.
We haven't had the face has been kind of an anomaly for the last few years.
But I missed the face originally too.
two seasons or two.
All of
series,
Capaldi's, yeah.
Because we did have them in all of Capaldi's.
Yeah. So
in that one season for Matt Smith.
Yeah.
I liked it. I agree. I think it was great. New TARDIS interior.
I want to see more of it. I like the walls.
It's too dark.
The walls are amazing. I
Yeah.
love the walls. I love the flooring, and I even like the console itself.
I don't know how I
Do
feel
not
about
like the
having the
crystalline-
TARDIS spinning.
I
part on
thought that was kind of cool too.
That felt like something they bought in a shop and slapped on there.
Well, most of Matt's TARDIS though felt
yeah,
like
exactly. It was very steampunk.
typewriters.
Well,
and
yeah,
rubber
yeah.
dollars
Store.
But
Yeah.
it wasn't like that felt like a product placement
Yeah.
more than anything.
What I don't
We
like
will
are
be
the
selling this online later this
I don't
afternoon.
like the crystalline pillars.
And the fact the pillars would be one thing for me. The time rotor in the center. The center column is now crystal too.
I liked that. I just did not like the columns. I think if the columns were gone and you just had the crystalline center in the rotor, I think that would be okay. But number one, the columns are taking up too much space. It makes the area of the console room seem very confined now.
It feels a lot
Number
smaller.
two, it's a little bit too organic. And this goes back to I never was a fan of the coral in the 9th and 10th Doctor's TARDIS. I've never liked that. Even though I think the idea was to give it more of a organic feel, more of a living organism, the TARDIS. I've never been a fan of that. And so this kind of invokes that in me as well. If they were even maybe more slender, I might have been okay with them, but they're just really big and bulbous. They look like big salt deposits. Is what they look like.
Yeah, they really do. And the fact that they match the Sonic so well makes me... I don't know if it's the Moffat storytelling that we're so used to. It makes me question absolutely everything and if it's connected. But it makes me wonder, is it connected? Is there first a reason why those crystals are there and why they're so similar
maybe it ties
to the Sonic and the
maybe
fact
it ties
that,
into Sean's theory that there's more consequence to
how the TARDIS picked up that
because
that aspect of things.
It's similar to those little crystals, quartz-looking crystals in the the pod that
which she had to build the Sonic from. Yeah.
So,
did you happen to notice that they were curved? The crystals kind of
The
came
top,
up and came into the top, which was very, very reminiscent. I mean, it goes back to 9 and 10 as well. But for me, it reminded me much more of the almost flying buttresses of the 8th Doctor's movie TARDIS.
Yeah, the shape of them, certainly.
The shape, yeah.
But then I thought they did something interesting is with the walls. When we get that kind of back overhead shot, I have to go back and look to really see if I saw it. It almost seemed like the walls with the hexagonal things made a ball. It almost looked like it was almost a sphere around the console room.
Yeah, it did kind of.
Which was kind of like, that's actually kind of a cool, it's different.
And the entrance being as deep as the actual
that you get to
TARDIS.
see all the
box.
doors.
Yeah.
Which is a little different.
All the doors?
All
you see the
sides.
Walls.
The walls.
Sides.
Yeah.
I was just say there's only two
all the
doors
windows.
All the doors.
on it. All the windows. Yeah.
All the windows.
windows.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's interesting you said that because that picture that circulated online. This is it.
But I think there was more light to this.
No, there was more light in the photo.
No,
Well,
you're
there's
talking about
two.
the doctor
More
one. The
ambient
doctor
light.
one
There's two.
was further.
Yeah, because it was this photo, which the way this was shot. This is the one problem I have with the way this episode was shot. I thought everything was, especially the sequence where they eject the back half of the ship, and you actually see it tumble away through the viewport window. That was really well done and cool. But when they get into the TARDIS, I felt it was too dark, and all I could think of was 5-inch Doctors, where he's going, "We used to have lovely light. What happened to that?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's really dark." The doctored photo that appeared, they had went back in and really illuminated the crystals,
Which I hated even more
of a pink glow. But I thought at the very least it brightened the room up. But it reminded me of I don't know, like Fortress of Solitude, and I thought you would really like it because of that crystalline.
It's too dark though. Crystals.
Needs to
Fortress
be
of
all
Solitude
white.
is all bright and light.
Yeah.
No, it didn't remind me of that at all. And then if it did, I probably would have been pissed off because I felt like they stole it. So I'm glad I didn't. Now that you say that, I'm mad. No. I just everything about the interior is fine, but the exception of and like I say, maybe if they were thinner, they weren't so bulky. It feels very claustrophobic in there.
And really, until I looked at some of the pictures online, I didn't really feel like I got a good sense of what everything looked like. We didn't get a big enough wide shot of absolutely everything once it was lit up.
Well,
and
it's
going.
Because there's too much
stuff in the way.
crystalline in there in the way.
I did love her reaction to all of it, though, as she gets to come up to the door and
that was
I can't find my key, and it lets her in, and then the line of "You've
One
redecorated."
of my favorite
I
parts
really
was,
love it. Was
You've
fantastic.
redecorated, and I knew what she was going to say. I knew it.
I
knew what she was going to say, and I love that they held on it too for such a long time because I had just.
Well, she took it in.
I had this big old goofy smile on my face, and I was like, "Yeah, say it. You like it. Say it. You like it." And then she says it. I was like, "Oh, that was a really neat moment."
Yeah.
So I liked
That was
what they did with it.
goosebump-inducing.
And I'm glad
Yeah.
I'm glad she likes it as the character. I don't know what Jodie thinks of it, but I'm glad the doctor likes it because that's the important thing. I mean, you know, her to walk in and go, "Oh my God, this is terrible." No, but I'm fine with the fact that she likes it. It's hers, but I just my feelings weren't entirely the same. But
Yeah, I would agree.
That would be an interesting. You couldn't.
Oh, we got to do this.
It would just, the doctor puts the wardrobe on and the TARDIS goes, "Oh, yeah?" Dresses to match. Can you imagine a Technicolor 6 Doctor TARDIS? He's like, "Fine, I'll change the coat." And then it reverts back to the white.
Yeah, but if it would gone with the all black that Colin originally wanted, then it would have been more like the Masters.
So it looked like the Masters,
Right.
Wait, that's why the Master TARDIS is like that, because he always dresses in all black.
That would be a great scene for an incoming Doctor when they do the costume wardrobe. That if he comes out in several different outfits and the TARDIS changes the interior each time, and it's like, really? Fine. And then he goes and gets a sensible outfit. And the TARDIS goes, "Oh, okay." I'd love that. That would be awesome. But no, I can say it'll grow on me.
I think this episode certainly didn't have the wow factor of last week, but I think it's still got its momentum, and I think it's still doing really well. I think the storytelling relatively concise. Again, I think there was a lot of things that could have been further addressed, and maybe if it's going along the way that Sean's thinking it'll go, maybe
I've
they
been
will.
right so many times.
Maybe they will backtrack and answer some of those questions that I felt were unanswered, but. Overall, I enjoyed the story.
I don't know if it's because we now have the TARDIS again, but it now almost feels like the show is back in its groove. Like we were offset with no title, no opening sequence, no TARDIS. Didn't quite feel like our normal show, but it still did at the same time in the first episode. Now we're on an alien planet. It's still kind of wobbly, and now, we're off running, and it's Doctor Who proper again because we got the TARDIS.
I kind of felt it was Doctor Who proper from last week.
Well, it felt like Doctor Who, but it didn't at the same time because it felt new and different. So it still feels new and different, but it feels more Doctor Who-ish new and different, if that makes sense.
It is different. It's not necessarily wrong. It's not just
because they have the TARDIS and they can travel wherever they want now.
That's all
it comes down to.
It's as different.
Yeah, I think maybe that's it.
Last week would have been as different as somebody tuning into the first Third Doctor episode would have gone, well, this is different. I mean, it was just an adjustment period, and they'll get quote unquote back to the baseline at some point. I hope. I almost think that bothers me. Now that
I think it's fine.
You said earlier that
I think it's fine. I've said for years that I think Doctor Who has to continue to be new and fresh.
Oh,
it
has
to have those familiarities, and I appreciated the Venusian Acuto.
There was a lot more callbacks this week than I expected.
I really felt like they were going to abandon a lot of the callbacks that we've had, because that just kind of felt like how Chibnall was going with it. But to have these little moments of things that are throwbacks, and it's almost like a special gift to the longtime fans. It doesn't take anything away from a new viewer, because they're introduced to Venusian Acuto. She more or less explains it, but we get a little nod of, hey, you know more about this, and I like that. And I was afraid
Moffat used to do it.
I was afraid, yeah, exactly. I was afraid we wouldn't get any of those, and we are, and so I'm very satisfied with that aspect.
I would agree. My only other thought is, why don't people, when a ship is crashing,
run under it instead of away from it?
I was going to say run perpendicular.
Perpendicular?
Run, go to the right, go to the left. You're going to get not hit.
Can I address that? Because I always think the exact same thing, but here they went one step further to make it work for me, is at least they were running down a trench.
It wasn't that deep.
It wasn't, but I kept thinking if you tried, it was, and if you tried to veer left or right, I can see with that descent or ascent slowing you down, and so knowing that the fastest path is forward, at least they did that for me. Had they been on a flat plane, running in the middle of a desert,
here comes that tree.
Running from a plane, I would have done the same thing, and I go, oh my gosh, just get out of the way. But putting them in that little trench made it just that much more believable for me.
A little bit more. If the trench was steeper, I would have been able to swallow that pill.
But if the trench was any steeper, the crash you probably could have got down, and the crash would have, maybe split up over you. So. I think it was just shallow enough.
You're going to be this way all season, aren't you? The show can do no wrong.
Yeah. Well, I pointed out some wrongs already. Crystalline TARDIS structures, and leaving a lot of points. Not exploring some of the things you've set up well enough. But other than that, it's good.
I wish we'd have gotten more with the sentient cloth.
I did. That's was another thing that I felt that they should have given us more of.
That was the one part that almost made me roll my eyes.
Oh,
really?
I thought that was cool.
I just wasn't that impressed by it.
I like too.
Maybe it was just the effects.
I like too that they kept foreshadowing it by showing the cloth laying all over the planet.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking. I mean, we kept getting these shots like, this is important or this is menacing, but I couldn't see it because I couldn't figure out why would that be menacing? What's going on?
Whoa.
Maybe that I thought it was like trash or leftovers of this civilization.
Dead people.
Only to later
Someone dropped their coat.
Only for later for it to come alive. I was like, oh, okay, that was clever.
The first time I saw it, I thought it was just a reference of it's hot, so somebody ditched their coat. Someone in our current party ditched their coat.
Yeah.
And that's all the thought I gave to it.
Now, what would have been clever is if the wind kicked the sand up and somebody reached over and picked one of those up and wrapped it around themselves like keeping the dirt off.
Yeah.
And then it started strangling them later. That would have been clever.
That would have been cool.
That would have.
I was glad at least what's his name did pull it up over it like a blanket while he was getting ready to take his nap. Again, would have liked to have had a little more information about them. That was one of the things that I felt was pushed in there that
like
we
how
didn't
they could
quite
talk
get.
to you.
Yeah.
A room full of scientists being forced to do evil things. What if
we got giant clams? Now we have sentient cloth.
Right,
I mean, that's what happens when scientists are forced to do evil things.
What if the uniforms of the enemy soldiers killed them? Ooh. What have you got? Sentient cloth. All right.
There you go, Glenn.
That's just crazy enough. It might work.
Yeah, but we could sit here and formulate that. But if a television program that's telling you a story does not give you enough, it has failed. If I have to derive backstory for something in your story, you haven't given me enough.
I'm going to write this down and remember that you said that.
I've said that a lot. You can go back and look.
I'm going to write it down and remember that you said that. You can
go back and look at a lot of our episodes where I said, if you didn't tell me, give me enough information in this story, then...
It's a fine line with Glenn, because there are other times where if they don't give him enough information, he likes it because he gets to extrapolate what he wants.
You're right. I have taken the opportunity to extrapolate more than probably was presented, but...
It's a fine line. It really is a fine line for everyone.
I would agree.
It's Inception. Some people are infuriated by the ending of Inception. Other people love it. It's a very fine line.
Yep.
I'm in the middle of that line because I'm not sure. We should go into this. But I'm not exactly sure what the debate is on that.
If it falls or not.
Well, yeah, I know, but I guess I don't. Oh, whether it falls. But we see it start to rock, but we don't see it fall, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. If the rocking...
If the rest of the movie would have been captivating enough to keep me there, maybe I would have remembered that. The rest of the movie wasn't that good. Anyway, we won't go there. I'm sure we've done this before. I'm sure we've talked ad hoc about how I didn't really care that much about Inception. I appreciated it, just didn't care that much about it. Anything else on this story before we wrap this one up?
Glenn has a differing opinion than me. In other news,
always.
Water, wet. Crime wave in Gotham.
Yeah, you're over there gasping, but I'm thinking, shouldn't you just expect that?
Why am I still surprised by this?
All right, what do we got coming up on the schedule, Sean?
On the schedule is more of the same. Or maybe not. We won't know until we watch it. We are reviewing episode 3, Rosa, which has Rosa Parks, which I was very excited about. And then what appeared to be somebody firing an alien weapon at her, which...
Less excited about?
Less excited now, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm kind of reserving judgment because I want to see where they go with this, but I think that this one will be the one that'll be tough to do as far as its subject matter. So we'll just see how they.
I mean, I don't know why I expected it. It's not like Shakespeare had
witches.
Yeah, it's a thing now. I kind of was hoping for a pure historical, which sounds really weird coming from me. But
I'm sorry, it's just never going to happen again.
It's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
We will find out next week.
Well, I mean, it can be done. It was done on a weekly basis with Quantum Leap. So, I mean, it can be done. So,
and to argue against my own point, period dramas are a huge rage right now, too.
That's true.
Look at The Crown, Victoria.
And
I mean, all of these
BBC
other
does
ones.
well.
Yeah, I mean,
that's true.
They could easily be done.
I mean, they did a great job with the gunfighters. It was so period accurate.
And Ghostlight.
You're gonna argue that one is a pure historical?
No.
Are we doing anything for Halloween for our show? We've kind of done little things in the past. I don't know if we were.
I'll bring candy.
Okay.
All right.
We'll have candy on our Halloween show. All right. Is there anything else we need to discuss before we close this one out?
Bars.
I don't think so.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
All right. If that's going to do it for this week, until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
No, I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you. Thanks for listening. Go take a nap.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.